I was just thinking that Canada has the most resources of any other country, really. Like, nobody has the mix that we have. And it's, well, it's our land, but it's also native land. So, like, I've been thinking a lot about, Every Child Matters. Well, I live in an area where there's a large Native community. So, I knew Dudley George personally. I worked with him at the Army camp. And that's a great example, actually, of how we have failed Native people in Canada. I was working at the Army camp that same year that it was taken over by the Stony Point natives that it belonged to. The original agreement there with Ipperwash is that it had the same beaches as in Normandy, right? So they were practicing for D-Day there, which is actually, pretty cool history, but also ancient history, especially in 1980 something. I don't know. I'm not sure when that was. Could have been during the 90s. But anyway, so the Army camp was at that point old, totally outdated. All of the it was long extended its due. It was originally, like I said, borrowed from the natives only because of that geological feature, which is actually beautiful. Like I said before, everyone on the planet should go to Pinery Park. It has one of the best sunsets in the world. Actually, it was number 10 in National Geographic, but nonetheless, it made top 10. So, Dudley and the natives at that point were saying, we want it back. Like, it's been a long time coming, and we want our land back. And so, I remember the fire inspector coming through all the buildings and saying, yeah, these buildings they all need to be either rebuilt or tore down, or, and I remember thinking, well, this is a great time to give the natives back their home. And, just do that exactly. Bulldoze it down, or arrange a new deal. I mean, if I were part of the band council, I'd be shooting for a casino, a riverboat that goes from, KP to Grand Bend or something. Like, this place is such a gem, and we could do so much with tourism here. Again, I'm going on another tangent, but the point is, the natives wanted it back, and the government said no. And they went and spent a bunch of money rebuilding some of the facilities. I think it was maybe, lots of money is relative, right? But I think it was like $15 million back then, which was kind of a big deal. But again, that Army camp, now let's, just to be clear, that Army camp employed a lot of people like me. So when that was no longer there, it hurt our local economy, like, greatly, actually. So this is, again, the sort of spin-off stuff that you get from good socialist programs, right? Like a functioning military. So they went in, they fixed up all these buildings, only for the next summer for the band to go in and take control, and they took over the place. So again, because my dad was a cop and I know all these guys, I was in a unique position to know who all the players were. So I know for a fact that it was Mike Harris who directly called in to the supervising officer, who I knew personally very, very well, friend of the family, very well. And like, again, Mike Harris ordered him. He said, you go in there and you get those natives out of there. And he used a lot of other ugly language with that. And so that's what they did. And the cop that shot Dudley later died in a car crash, in a police crash. Sort of like some karma. But Dudley didn't need to die. That didn't need to get as ugly as it did. I actually worked at Ipperwash Park as well, because that was a part of the Pinery Park. Like, I worked through all of there. It's my backyard. So it's still a mess. I mean, well, it's not a mess. It's cleaned up significantly. But there's bad blood there. Like, there's still a lot of story there. Which brings me around, again, full circle to how we treat natives and always have. And how the native people need to have a bigger seat at the table. I think that's only fair. Like, if I could wave my magic wand and make Canada some kind of perfect social democracy, well, firstly, I would get rid of the monarchy because, Prince Andrew is all you need to say about the monarchy. They don't have any moral authority, just like the church, just like the military-industrial complex. Like, the hypocrisy. Like, people... I think this is why Trump won in a landslide, because people are sick of all the ridiculousness, sensationalism, and above all, hypocrisy, because it's blatant. So, I'd get rid of our monarchy, which means the government or the Governor General's position becomes sort of irrelevant, right? So what I would do is I would replace that position. I keep our same parliament in place. Like, it's what we've been doing in Canada. Like Mike Myers says. Mike Myers says, of all the countries in the world, Canada's trying to get it right. And, we really were up until 9 years ago, when all hell broke loose under Justin Trudeau. And like, wow, history is not going to look kindly on the Trudeau brand, let's just say. So the natives need to have more of a voice, because, like when people were saying, oh, Canada, our home on native land, I've been talking about that since the 80s. It is all native land. Like, we came in here and we kicked them out. And then we put them in concentration camps, and then we gave them disease. Like, that was in the MO. Like, those blankets were, that wasn't an oopsie. St. Anne's Residential School in Northern Ontario had a mini electric chair for the children if they, spoke Cree. So, again, as Gordy so rightly observed, Canada isn't the country we think it is. And it never really was. And it hasn't been at all the same country for the last 9 years. But again, this is a dawning of a new age, right? And what's coming out with the with the Trump administration and with Tulsi Gabbard and Robert Kennedy Jr., we're seeing a glimpse of the real ugliness behind the curtain, you know? So back on track with the idea about Canada and our natives. So if we replaced that position of Governor General with like, I don't know, the Grand Chief. I think there is, actually. I'm not 100% sure, but I think there is a Chief of Chiefs, right? Well, this would give the Native people a true voice in our parliament, which they should have. And also our own, well, we have a Charter of Rights. We don't have a Constitution. But maybe we should have a Constitution. Maybe we should think about what that Constitution should include. And I think it should include a more Native philosophy that Natives never understood land ownership, because it was like, how can you own land? The land's going to be here long after we are. The land's always here. We're not. We're visitors. You know, we're campers, right? Now, if you're going to build something on the earth, you should also probably think about how long it's going to be there. You know, like the Pyramid of Giza was built to last. We really don't build anything to last. So imagine this. Imagine if we, well, firstly, Canada's huge. And we are underpopulated. And we also aren't having a lot of babies. So we kind of need immigration. So just kind of put that on the back burner for a sec. But imagine if instead of Crown land, that became Canadian land. And every resident of Canada, well, actually, first let's just kind of back up. So let's say, like, let's not talk about a Green New Deal, but let's just talk about kind of a New Deal, deal, which would include realistic ideas about energy. And in the North, there is a lot of natural gas and energy. Like it or not, that's valuable. Very, very valuable. And it should belong to us. It should belong to Canada, right? And not outsourced or, you know, all the profits going to a board of directors. It should go to the people of Canada, and it should be socialized. Remember, kids, socialism isn't the boogeyman, the commie that's trying, you know, going to come and I don't know, make you eat borscht. That's ridiculous CIA propaganda that's been going on since the 50s. We need to move past that and into a brave new world of what's really going on. And what's really going on is Canada has a Northwest Passage, which, as global warming or climate change, whichever you prefer, I gotta say this a little bit, global warming, like Dick Cheney, if you see the movie Dick, or not Dick, that should have been called Dick, it was called Vice, but it's about Dick Cheney. And they did focus groups on that, like what was, you know, well, apparently global warming was too scary, so it became climate change. But as the earth warms, it's opening up the Northwest Passage, which makes world trade good for Canada, because it's right through our territory. So when Trump asks us to defend our borders and increase our military, we should absolutely do that. We should build submarines. Actually, we should build, instead of nuclear submarines, but with what is it? Not lithium. This word always escapes me. There's a substitute for plutonium that doesn't have the you don't get weapons grade plutonium afterwards. There's another element you can use, which is escaping me now. But nonetheless, we could build cleaner nuclear is the truth. But we could also do all kinds of stuff with solar and wind, and especially hydropower. We have power literally up the wazoo in Canada. So, Doug Ford is correct when he says that. But anyway, what we could do is an example of trickle-up economics. So let's build not just, let's not build any pipelines. How about we build refining facilities in Alberta? Keep the oil sands right where they are. And then, actually, maybe let's clean them up afterwards with hemp or something to regrow. We could be using hemp in Fukushima, or where's that? The nuclear spill site. Like, hemp could be using to suck up some of that nuclear waste. Like, nobody's using hemp, and we should be, because it sequesters carbon, right? Like, there's a lot of ridiculousness with greenwashing and misinformation about global warming. But, be that as it may, the Earth is warming. And as it warms, we could really increase our naval presence in the world. Like, we should actually build the biggest navy. Or one of them. Okay, so here's the plan though. So we'd have to build infrastructure right across the country, which we don't even have. We don't have an energy grid that goes all the way. Our energy grid is actually a security risk because it's antiquated, and like we saw in Quebec, when there's an ice storm, people actually die because, especially in Eastern and Ontario and Quebec, they rely on hydro because it's cheap, right? The Cornwall Dam. And again, we have all kinds of that. Like, we have a lot of water at height. And if you have water at height, you have a battery. Think on that for a sec, kids. So, here's the plan. We build a nationwide superhighway, high-speed rail, all of that. But in the north, where there basically is no population whatsoever. But here's the kicker. Where there are these little small towns, we will build expansion and offer every single Canadian citizen that is currently a Canadian citizen, as of right now, has to be fair, as of right now, gets a 1/4 acre lot. Like, when Canada was first being colonized, that was a part of the hook. You got free land. Well, I think we should bring that back, because if everyone had a lot, then they would instantly be a landowner that they could build a home on, right? So that would be a huge trickle up idea. Now, if you had a home and you didn't really want it, you could just sell it. Maybe you could sell it right back to the government at 50%. So instead, you just get a big fat check. But again, it's all money that we actually have because we own real estate, and real estate is valuable, especially in Canada, because it's beautiful here. It's heaven on earth, and it could be up north too. Especially if we built, with hemp. Like, we could build, I have ideas for a hempcrete castle, if you want. Ask me about it. But building with hemp is fireproof. You can build with wood, and it's fireproof if you put, I think it's 4 layers of drywall on it. it becomes fireproof. So there's so much that we could be doing in Canada. Oh, and actually going back to the whole native thing, and then so in the very north of Canada, those areas will be native. Like, they're not really inhabitable anyway. Like, who does inhabit those are Inuit people. And that's our claim to the north, actually. But that's why it should be protected. I mean, we got to do a better job of being stewards of the earth. Like, see, this is where a more native philosophy is necessary, because it's about respect, you know, and respecting the planet itself. So, yeah, I think we should build a whole bunch of towns all the way up north, great big highway right across, and a train. You know, I love the idea of taking a train across Canada. I that's one of my bucket list things, you know, like my own little sleeper or whatever. Like, I don't know. Canada's so beautiful, and we have so much room, and we can do so much with it. And a part of that is really coming to grips with our history and our relationship with our native people, because I think they need to have a bigger voice than they do.